My parents weren't there. It was a closed class, and no parents were allowed in. All the parents understood that, and all the parents of these about a dozen kids were just on the other side of the door, by the way. And they had us, me and the other girl, do the kissing upwards of 30 times over the course of several weeks.
Arden, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for so much for having me.
We're excited to have you on today.
I'm so excited.
So you have a very interesting quest, which I think so a lot of people can get behind. You've publicly said your goal in 2024 is about exposing Hollywood.
Yeah.
So why don't you go into detail a little bit about that and tell everybody a little bit of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up as a preteen, teen, young adult in the acting world in Hollywood. I grew up in LA. I kind of bounced around as an actress on different shows and guest spots on like ABC Family and Disney and different networks there. But I had a lot of really bad, inappropriate experiences along the way that partially were the cause that made me leave the industry. And I wanted to share that starting this year with the public just because I think there's so many parents who are open to getting their kids involved in the acting industry or maybe in the modeling industry. A lot of kids, and I was one of these kids, was begging my parents to let me do it. I know it can be like acting is fun. I totally agree. I still love the act of acting. Um, but I kind of wanted to warn parents about how predators prey on children, young people, and even parents are included in that because they're often manipulated into trusting these predators. And these aren't the people you hear about, like Harvey Weinstein or these huge names that you hear about in the news. A lot of these people are the people in positions that you absolutely have to do business with or trust in order to even start in the industry. So we're talking about managers and agents and acting teachers and photographers, people who are well trusted in the community, and they're good at their jobs. They're good teachers. They're good photographers. But some of them are predators, and it's hard to know which ones because they use credible reasons to get you to do what they want you to do and to get you in a compromising position. So, for example, a lot of acting teachers will use, well, if you aren't willing to do XYZ in this scene for me, then you don't have what it takes to be an actor. You're not fearless enough. You're not
Mm.
uninhibited enough. Go look at Margot Robbie. Go look at her in that movie. Do you see what she did there? You have to be willing to do that, and right now you're not. So leave and come back when you're ready.
So I think the general thought is, you hear the big names, you hear Harvey Weinstein, right? And he got tossed in jail and all this, and that's kind of the big target that everybody. It's Harvey
Yeah.
Weinstein, right? But you're saying it's a much larger trickle down effect across the entire industry that starts. You've told a couple stories on your X feed about when you were 13, one of your casting directors had you do like a girl on girl lesbian kiss, and they kind of hold this power over you, and that's the same thing that you heard about Weinstein, was that he would hold this power over people, and you need to do this if you want to get here. Um, was your first experience with this at 13?
Yeah, I want to say that was probably my first inappropriate experience. I was 13, and it was an acting coach, acting teacher who had me and another 13-year-old girl do like a very sexually charged makeout scene on a couch.
Prior
And
to that, prior to that, had you actually had your first kiss prior to that?
no.
So your first
Wow.
kiss was with another girl on a casting couch, and the casting person was like, "You need to make out And I mean, what's going through your mind when they're saying this to you? And are your parents there?
My parents weren't there. It was a closed class, and no parents were allowed in. All the parents understood that, and all the parents of these about a dozen kids were just on the other side of the door, by the way. And they had us, me and the other girl, do the kissing upwards of 30 times over the course of several weeks.
Wow.
So, and there was even one day where another adult, a male adult, was brought in who worked at the studio to like watch all the scenes go on. And so other adults were brought in, and it was just super inappropriate. Other things went wrong at the studio too. There was a guy who worked there who kind of ran the place, and he kissed a 14-year-old girl in the mouth, and he was probably in his 40s. Yeah.
So who are these people? What are their names? And are you afraid to say their names, or like
I'm
if
deciding not to right now. I'm connecting with other victims, or whatever you want to call them at the moment. Um,
victims?
Yep.
yeah, victims, survivors, whatever the term they would prefer, and to hopefully come together in a place where we can hold them accountable in whatever way. If there's a legal avenue, maybe we'll go that way, before just like blasting it online, because I want to do this correctly. And I do think that next week I will be publishing a name in a different video, though. I think I've measured my options, and I think that's the best bet for this person. So
Have you mapped out? You said 2024 is, your goal is to expose Hollywood. Have you mapped out your year? Do you have a good idea as to what you're going to be saying on a week-to-week basis? Or are you more so playing it by ear based off the
I'm
response of
kind of playing
other
it by
videos?
ear. I don't know if you like follow my other work, but I'm actually a journalist, and I went undercover to record Pornhub employees admitting to scandalous, illegal practices behind the scenes. And so that's been my main focus, and it will stay a primary focus. With these Hollywood videos, I have a few that I definitely want to do, but after that, I want to hear from parents if they have specific things they want me to address. And I kind of want to see what the reaction is from the people I know from Hollywood. Maybe that will help me know where to go.
This really hits close to me because I have a daughter who loves to act, right? And that's what she wants to do. She wants to be an actor. She wants to be an actress.
Yeah.
And she's in all the little school plays, and we're just now getting into the whole acting scene. Have you seen this this dichotomy, this power structure take place outside of Hollywood as well as it's obviously very concentrated in Hollywood, but have you seen this expand out to other metropolitan areas?
I personally have not. I only have experience acting in Hollywood itself. But there's predators everywhere. I don't want to be unclear that I think what I don't think is I don't think every single person in Hollywood is a predator. And I also don't think that predators in the acting industry only exist in Hollywood. They obviously exist everywhere. I always say if you know someone who's been abused, then you probably know an abuser. So yeah, I would caution parents everywhere, no matter where you're located, just be careful, use common sense, be wary if a teacher or someone is saying, oh, this is closed to parents, be wary of that. Always check to see what people's past experiences were in the class. And these people can just be really tricky. So use your intuition. I think a lot of times my mom and I were gaslit into not using our intuition because, oh, well, this is just how it works. And if we don't do this, then, this person's legit. They've been on this and this, or they taught this and this person, so they must be all right.
Well, let me ask you then. So let's go back to this situation. You're 13. You're put in this really fucked up situation. This happens. You're alone with this other girl, and you got these casting people watching. You leave. Walk me through what happens. Do you talk to your mom about this? If you do, what does she say?
I don't talk to my mom about it. We're given a scene, and the scene, by the way, was from, this is why I remember it. It's from the movie called 13 with Evan Rachel Wood and I forget the other girl's name. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like
Mm-mm.
a super R-rated, like very adult movie, but it's about 13-year-old girls and they have a scene where they're high on drugs and they start making out, and so that's the scene that we were assigned to do. um yeah, no, it's so messed up, and no, I don't tell my mom about it, and that's the thing. I don't think that a lot of kids can be given the benefit of the doubt that they will tell their parents about something, because in my mind I was entrusted with a very adult, mature scene. And the better, the more convincing, the more sexual I was in the scene, the better of an actress I was, and the more worthy I was of my teacher's praise. And, in my mind, the better I was, the more I was on my way to being in movies like that because I wanted to be taken seriously. And
Right.
that's the idea we were given. If you do something sexual, if you do something where you're on drugs, if you do something where every other word out of your mouth is a curse, then you're a serious actress. It's just so messed up. And the more time I spend away from it, the more like mind boggling it is that I ever fell for it.
Right. Uh, Melanie Blabs, do y'all have any questions for Arden? Because I mean, this is heartbreaking for me to hear. And Arden, I am sorry that you had to deal with this shit. I'm glad that you've chosen this path that for positivity. I think it's outstanding. But Blabs, Melanie, I'm gonna turn the floor over to you. Melanie, I'm sure you got something.
I mean, not so much a question, but I completely see where your response and how like your immediate reaction wasn't to tell your mom. Because that's the thing when it comes to things associated with that kind of thing too. It's also really hard to actually tell people that kind of stuff. And I had a situation when I used to work at Red Lobster where one of the waiters touched me inappropriately, and I was terrified to even tell anybody. And it took me like a couple days before I could even tell my mom about it, and things like that. In this case, when I mean, and you also you're a child, that's me as an adult scared to tell my mom. And so you as a child, um I totally understand that. And especially when you're being brainwashed into this, um okay, well, you're not going to make it unless you can do these things, this is going to make you a better actor, this sort of thing. I think that's a very difficult situation for a child to be in, for sure.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I totally relate. Like, it's
Hmm.
hard to talk about someone who put you in a really vulnerable, awkward position, and you often find yourself second guessing, like, oh, but I could have prevented that easily. So
Right.
if I tell anyone, then they're just going to say that, and I'm going to feel stupid. So
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's
so
hard.
hard
It's
to,
tough.
yeah,
It's tough. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, you were a child. So there is no excuse, and there is that you don't hold any guilt whatsoever with that. You were a child, and these are adults putting you in that situation.
Blabs, do you have any questions?
Not so much questions, but basically for like the chat and anyone listening, do not let your child go to certain things like alone. Insist upon
Yes.
being there, because this doesn't just happen in Hollywood. It happened in gymnastics a couple years back. That was a physical therapist or coach. He was like sexually assaulting so many young girls, so many, and some of these girls are Olympic champions now. So many. So it can happen literally anywhere. So just be very, very cautious because this stuff is real.
yes, well
It's it,
said.
it's it's really tough as a parent. So My children, my girls are 11 and 9, right? And it's really tough because you don't want to hover over them. You want to give them freedom to do the things that they love. But the one thing that we've learned over the last, obviously, since COVID and the world has opened up, we got a really messed up world, right? We got a really, really messed up world. And so it's very hard, very, very hard. But Elsa has a really good question. Says Emma Watson's body double, who we had on the show recently in England, said there's laws that any actor under 16 must have a parent on set. Why doesn't Hollywood have laws like this?
I don't exactly know what the laws are. That's a really good question in Hollywood, because when I was working, my mom would come with me on set, but there's so many, a mother could be in the green room while the child is on set, or in the teacher's room, because when you're under 18, they have to hire an on-set teacher a lot of the time. So it's hard, even as a good vigilant parent, which I consider my mom a good vigilant parent. She would have never,
Right.
ever let any of this happen to me. But people are tricky. People will gain a parent's trust. Even people who come with testimonials from other parents. Some parents are just so unaware, and it's not their fault, but in a way, we have to make it our responsibility as parents, because predators are known to try to gain a parent's trust. Yeah, and that's really how it happened with me. All the people who tried to take it way too far with me were very nice to my mom. They're never going to tell you what they're up to.
Right. Well, so let me ask you this. You have a very big goal, right? You are going against Goliath, right? You want to expose Hollywood, which I think most people outside of Hollywood are very open to that idea. The idea of ending this corruption, protecting children, and not allowing these horrible things that happen to you to happen to other people. What is your end goal here? Like at the end of 2024, what does success look like for you?
I think getting as many people to acknowledge that Hollywood is just simply not a place for children. As many people to acknowledge that as possible. The way that it is designed is not a place for children. Even best case scenario, you're never sexually abused in Hollywood as a kid. You're still in an environment made by adults, made for adults, and primarily with other adults. And, if you're a child actor, you're kidding yourself if you're not going to be behaving like an adult as a child and expected to. So, while I'm grateful for my experience as an actress, I do realize that I grew up way too fast, and not even just like from the sexual misconduct I experienced, but the harsh expectations placed on me. You're on set and it's like, hey kid, this is a multi-million-dollar show with however many millions of viewers every Monday, so make it fly or else you're fired and humiliated, and you're wasting everyone's time here. Okay, action.
Wow.
So it's a lot of pressure, and I think parents need to think about that before just letting their child pursue a serious career. It's kind of tough. It's a tough issue, and I'm still kind of working out my own views on it, because to tell some stories, you really do need kids. Like, you need kid actors to portray children, of course. And there's important stories to be told that involve kids.
Oh, I was going to say, just hearing your story, hearing you speak as a father, it hurts. Like it physically hurts me to hear these stories, to think about them, this happening to you. It's very relatable, in that I don't understand how anybody can look at this and be like, we have to change, but this has to change. but I'll be very interested to see the names that you name, and to see the response to you naming them. If people will attempt to have their, I'm sure you'll have people, this person's never done anything wrong, and you'll have people backing them. And I do think that you are playing this right, and that you need to get as many people as possible to where the media can't ignore this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And I know I'm not the only one. I know that for a fact. So I think that this is going to take serious deliberation and ultimately a decision between everyone I'm talking to. But we want accountability. We know it's wrong now. And as kids, we were just, this is how it works. And
Right.
I mean, this is something I actually haven't shared. I wasn't planning on making a video about it. I'll just say it here, because it's kind of just like a really short story. But the other man at the same studio I was talking about, who kissed the 14-year-old, he was photographing new headshots for myself and the other girl. And by the way, this was the same girl who I was made to make out with, and she was 14 at this time. And we were taking turns, like taking photos, and he was the photographer. Our moms were in the makeup room. We were outside on the sets. And I guess he wasn't getting what he wanted out of her taking photos. He goes up to her, kisses her on the mouth, goes back to where he was standing, continues taking photos of her, and goes, "Yeah, that's what I wanted."
Oh my goodness.
And I saw her grow up. I was friends with her as we grew up, and she became a very hypersexualized person.
Wow.
Never told her mom anything. And
has that girl, has she gone on to be in anything of prominence that we would recognize, or
not that I know of? No, I don't believe she's now also left Hollywood, and she has a wonderful family now, and I'm really happy for her. But no, we were both, pursuing it for a while, and then she kind of decided to leave a little bit before I did. Yeah.
Do you, when you see these childhood actors who grow up, and that's the general thought, you look at these people who grew up in Hollywood, they now they are totally unstable adults. They're either addicted to drugs, they're having all sorts of major issues. Do you think, and many of them probably would never say it, but do you think that this is the root of a lot of their issues?
I think it is. I think, if not direct physical sexual abuse, a lot of it has to do with just being sexualized by the public in general. If you are in the limelight, there's a lot of attention on you. That's bad enough. But, there's people in the press and online talking really sexually about child actors in their comments, in different fan pages. And I guess Brooke Shields is a really good, clear example of how that can happen, where people sexualize whatever is out there. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a cartoon. And if you're putting a child out there, expect someone to look at your child in a very inappropriate way.
Right.
And they pick up on.
I mean, and that ultimately comes over to to our world of like YouTubing and streaming and such. You see these parents propping their children up, literally as props for their shows, and there's a lot of dirtbags out there, and it's. I wish I could say that I'm not heartbroken right now. I feel like I knew this was going to be a downer. Like I knew, and that's the reality. But these conversations have to be had, and I, as a father, appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's incredibly important what you're doing. So I, as a father, also want to thank you for that. So thank you for speaking out and just raising awareness about this horrific stuff that's happening right now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I know it can seem really heavy, and the videos I've posted are really hard to watch, but I want people to take comfort in the fact that these things, like what happened to me, it does not keep me up at night. What keeps me up at night is that people just aren't aware of how Hollywood can brainwash you and how a predator in general can brainwash you. I was made to think that if I was uncomfortable, well, it was my fault, that I was just a scared little baby and I was a bad actress and I didn't have what it took. Or, I was just a wimp. And the fact that I was uncomfortable going alone to a photo shoot with a guy I had known for 5 years, well, that was my fault. Like, you're such a bad person that you think this guy's a bad person. Um, and I think I just want people to know that what happened to me, I don't cry about it. It doesn't keep me up at night. It's really like, I just hope to spread to other parents and other people that it is not natural, it's not normal what your child will go through if you put them in Hollywood. I am most active on Twitter. They can follow me at Arden_Young_. That's where I've been posting everything. I really appreciate the support. I'm kind of heavily shadow banned right now. So really anything helps. Follow me. I appreciate it. Comment on my stuff. I want to actually like talk to people and respond to people because I find it really interesting. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate you popping on with us. Like I said, it's a heavy conversation, but I think it's a really important, heavy conversation to have. So thank you for being brave and telling your stories.
Thank you all for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Make sure you guys go follow her over on X. The link will be in the description down below. God, that's tough to hear.
Wow. Yeah.
Those are conversations no one wants to have, but we
Right.
have to be having. And
Yeah.
I don't really know how to say it other than that. So
I think that's just a good example for parents to realize, even, I mean, obviously with Hollywood there, but I mean, this extends beyond that. Also on the internet, being content creators now, while they're not going to be exposed to that in person, you're still exposed to a bunch of creepers on the internet. I say this all the time. People should not let their children on the internet, on social media, not until they're at least 16, but I think 18, because I mean, it's crazy out there. The creeps, but also just a child having to experience grown-up things too soon, because there's going to be a lot of backlash associated with anything online. You could have a channel where all you do is unbox anime figures and you're still going to get haters and all that kind of stuff. So children, that stuff's just too heavy for kids to have to experience. And
that is a lot.
To answer the question for the body double flick miles for Hollywood, SAG-AFTRA has a regulation that child performers below 16 years of age must be accompanied throughout the workday by a responsible person. In areas covered by SAG-AFTRA's jurisdiction, the responsible person is the parent or someone named by the parent. So I'm assuming if you go to a class and no parents are allowed, I guess that instructor becomes the responsible one in Hollywood. And then that's where things get shady and things happen, because they're supposed to be deemed as the responsible one.
It's messed up, man.
Yeah,
messed up.